Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the Q&A of The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. We're very excited to have everyone today. We wish we could have obviously done a full screening and been there in person, but with the rise of COVID cases, we wanted to be safe and make sure that everything was taken care of in the way that it needed to be. So we set this up, and we're very happy to have the three creative main partners who are involved in the film. Today, joining me, I have writer-director David MIDELL, Enrico Natale, who is a producer, editor, and co-star of the film, and of course the illustrious and amazing Franky FAISON, who gave the tour de force performance that we've all seen and couldn't be more proud of. We'd love to invite you also to, in the comments section, please ask any questions for this cast and crew. We'll be taking those after we do a few interview questions with these three gentlemen right here. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I guess we'll start with David. David, can you talk a little bit about the real case, Kenneth Sr., and how you came about the knowledge of what happened there and what inspired you to make a film based on that case, and a little bit about how you came to Franky as well, to this project?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having us, and thank you everyone for being here. We really appreciate it. The opportunity to talk about the film and the issues that are addressed in it. I first became aware of Kenneth Chamberlain Sr.'s story in, I believe it was 2017. And the more I learned about it, this is not a case that got a tremendous amount of national media attention or anything like that. So I had to do some digging, and the more I learned about it, the more it actually resonated on a personal level with me for a couple different reasons. I am on the autism spectrum myself, and I had worked for years with individuals with emotional and behavioral disorders and mental health challenges. And one of the things that I needed to do working with that population and, with my own personal history was, I was very familiar with crisis management strategies and how to, methods that are used to de-escalate a situation where an individual is having a mental health crisis. And what really jumped out to me about this case was how tragically ill-prepared and misguided these officers were in their approach to communicating with Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. They were the ones that caused the situation to escalate. And that's what ultimately led to the tragic end. And in terms of Franky, I remember very specifically sending, he was somebody that we had talked about as somebody who we could potentially see playing a character like this. I was a big fan of Franky's from, so many of his projects, from Coming to America to The Wire to Silence of the Lambs to Banshee, and just so many. Franky's had a very, very long and eclectic career and played many different types of roles. So we were aware of him from that perspective. And I remember very clearly sending the script to his agent on a Thursday or a Friday. And then the following Monday or Tuesday, we got a response from his manager, not agent. And I remember very clearly getting a response the following Monday or Tuesday saying, Franky is interested. Let's make this happen. And that was just so incredibly exciting for us to know that, somebody who's had the career that Franky has had was interested in really sinking his teeth into a role like this. And, as much as we knew that we were going to get a great performance, as much as we knew that Franky was going to put his whole heart and soul into this, I think he still just so wildly surpassed all of our expectations. We could tell even from those shooting days that what he was giving us was just something really, really incredible.
Absolutely. On that note, Franky, I don't know anybody who has seen this movie who hasn't been moved and raved about your incredible performance. Personally, it's one of the most impressive I've ever seen on film. And I know for you, there must have been a huge responsibility in portraying a real event and a real person. Can you talk a little bit about how that may have affected your performance and kind of when you first heard about Kenneth's story and how that approach affected your ultimate performance on screen?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is really very important, and I'm glad that we have your participation in this event. The responsibility in doing any story that's based on a real person's life is tremendous responsibility. And as an actor, you have to figure out how you want to approach, in my process that's concerned, since I had Kenneth Chamberlain until the film actually began, until I received the script from David, what drew me into this project was the story. I mean, it was so compelling, and I'm a character-driven actor. I love to do character-driven work, and that are substantial. And this was a substantial piece, and I just read it and that towards the character and the film, and I immediately said, yes, I would love to be a part of it.
Oh, okay. I think we're having a few technical difficulties on Frankie's end, it feels like. We'll see if maybe we can adjust a little bit to get that a little clearer. But absolutely, I understand what you're saying about the character motivation and how important that is to live and breathe inside of Kenneth's mind at the time. Enrico, could you talk a little bit about for us? I mean, some people might not know that you wore a lot of different hats during this production. You're the editor, you're a pivotal character on screen, a producer. Can you talk about how that juggling all those different things and trying to maintain a truthful performance while also focusing on all the other responsibilities you had on set?
Yeah, it was, it's not easy making an independent film, at the quality level that David and I wanted for this. And we didn't have a lot of shoot days. And there was a lot of intense work going into this. And we understood the severity of what we were making here. This isn't just, any ordinary movie. This is a real life story. This is someone's actual tragic story that we're telling, and that meant a lot to David and I, and we took that very seriously. And so when looking at the character of Rossi, I just felt a great desire to be almost like the voice of the audience in a lot of ways. It's the character that people can sympathize with the most and understand and feel his pain and what he's going through and being in that situation. And I felt a great desire to want to do that. And in terms of doing the multiple roles, I feel like as an independent filmmaker, that's kind of how I was grown up on, and that's how I've been performing in this industry is doing multiple roles and wearing multiple hats, and surrounding yourself with incredible talent. I think is the best thing. And I think for us and for the actors involved, having someone like Franky there playing Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. was pretty incredible for us to see his commitment and passion to the role. I think made it very clear for us to kind of try to match his level and be there with him every step of the way.
Fantastic. David, you also had a lot to juggle, obviously directing the film. It's a huge ensemble cast. There's not a sour note in it. And can you talk a little bit about juggling all those different character arcs that have to overlap throughout the course of such an intense film where, the timing and tension is everything?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience because it was really, we were almost telling two separate stories that obviously overlapped. There was everything going on inside the apartment, everything going on outside the apartment. And we knew that, we knew we had a really, really incredible actor in Franky, given the long career that he's had and the fantastic roles that he's played. And so we knew that we needed actors on the other side who were equally capable of all the nuance, all the subtlety, and all the emotional power that we knew Franky was capable of. And we really, really, I sort of liken the film to an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. And if these two equally powerful forces are butting heads. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges, and especially from Franky's perspective. I mean, I have to say that Franky acted 95% of this film with no one else there. If he was speaking to the medical attendant, beautifully voiced by Anika Noni Rose, but Anika wasn't there on set with us. He was talking to a production assistant right off screen, or he was talking to a production assistant behind the door. He needed to, the imagination that was required on Franky's part was just so incredible. And I think that just, speaks even more powerfully to how incredible he was in this role, when you think about the fact that he was acting 95% of it with nobody else there, to a production assistant off screen or just with his imagination. So it was, there were definitely different challenges on each side. That was definitely one of the challenges on the apartment side. And on the hallway side, the logistics of coordinating, there are quite a few sort of action-oriented sequences in the hallway, which is a very tight space. So figuring out the blocking changes, figuring out where a stunt had to take place, where a piece of equipment was going to be handed from one person to another, all of those kinds of things was very hectic. It was almost like a situation of controlled chaos.
I can imagine. And it looks like we might be able to have Franky back.
Franky, can you hear us? Hi, Sam.
Hi, Franky. Can you hear us?
The reception seems better. Let's see if maybe.
Yeah, I'll try Enrico. So can you, Enrico, talk about that scene that for me is one of the most heartbreaking of the entire film, and that's saying a lot. The one by the window where you your character has a moment in which there's a real connection and there's a chance for things to de-escalate. It's just such a beautiful moment that's so fragile. And can you talk about, it's also apparently, as David was saying, one of the few times that Franky was able to interact with somebody on set. Can you talk a little bit about filming that scene and what that meant to you as a performer?
So that scene was actually the very first scene that I shot as my character in the entire film. It just so happened to be, that's where we're in the producer hat. It just so happened to be that scheduling wise, that was the easiest way to shoot for us. So the window scene happened to be the very first scene that I ever did. And so there was a lot of people, there was I think day 3 of shooting, and people were still just speaking to me as a producer. I'd be having people, I'm in costume waiting outside the window, and I'd have people coming up to me asking me producer questions. And I think I turned around and we started on me. Both cameras were on me, and we called action. And I knocked on the window, and Franky turns around and holds the knife out at me. And we hear a freight train start going. And, we hold for sound, and we're just locked in that moment. And as an actor, I'm a trained actor, and I've been doing this my whole life. And that was probably one of the most profound experiences I've ever had, because we held for 4 minutes. It was an absurdly long time to hold. And I had my hands up, and I'm staring at Franky, in that moment. And he is just giving me everything. He's just giving me absolutely everything he can in that moment. And it was so unbelievably profound for me as an actor to witness someone who clearly is not on camera. There's two cameras pointed at me. He's not on camera at all. We're waiting for a train to pass, and he's just giving me everything. And it was just such an incredible actor moment for me that will live with me for the rest of my career. And because that was the first scene that I did, and I had that incredible experience with Franky, I went to David afterwards, and I said, we have to call in the other officers on their off day, and they just have to watch Franky. They just have to literally sit there and watch Franky. And so we did that. The very next day, we asked all the actors to come in. We're like, please come in. We'll pay you for the day. Come in. We just want you to watch Franky. And they did. And they were just equally blown away by what he was bringing to the table. And I think it made a profound impact on all of them as well, because I would hear them whispering on the other side of the door, like, remember what Franky was doing. Like we got to match Franky's intensity. And it was constantly with them at all times to see just how, quite frankly, mesmerizing Franky was in that moment. And to me, personally, we talk about it as actors all the time, like staying committed, staying in your role. And it was exactly what I needed for this movie, because it was my first scene, and to have that experience to start me off, it kind of just, it slapped me in the face right away. The first take of my first scene, and have that incredible moment with Franky, it really was profound for me. And I will truly never forget it. And I'm so honored to have had that moment and to have had that experience with him. And Franky and I rave about it all the time to him, and I constantly talk about how Franky. Hi, Franky. I see you there again.
Am I back? I am sorry. It's a good thing I'm an actor, not a technical person, because otherwise,
that sounds much better, though.
We got you though. This is perfect.
Much better.
I
was just raving about you in that window seat. I mean, to me, that really was as someone coming up in the acting world, in this industry, something I'll live with forever. Just seeing Franky's commitment in that moment was awe-inspiring, and something that I will strive to be and do for the rest of my career. Because truly, Franky, you inspired me. You really inspired me, and the dedication you had to this role was unlike anything I've ever seen. And it's really, I think for all of us, we wanted to give the best we could because of you and because of what you did for this.
And just to make sure that it doesn't get lost, this will just take a moment, but just to make sure that it doesn't get lost, I know obviously this is a Q&A for the Screen Actors Guild, and this is a performance focused Q&A, but I also don't want it to get lost that throughout the entire filmmaking process, the most important voices behind this film were the Chamberlain family. They've been involved since the very, very beginning, particularly Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., who has become a very powerful voice in the criminal justice reform movement. He was the first person I reached out to when I found this story. And, it would not have felt right to move forward with this film if we did not have the blessing of the family and the support of the Chamberlain family. So they have really been the most important voice behind this entire behind the entire film, the entire time. And even though this is obviously a performance focused discussion, I wanted to make sure that didn't get lost.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful point to keep in mind. Franky, now that we've got you back, we talked a little bit about, how you were isolated basically for the vast majority of the shoot. Can you just talk about how you're able to stay in the moment and dial into the character so effectively when you were having to make all of it up, basically the reactions, the playing off of anyone outside of the door. You didn't have any of those typical tools that an actor would rely on. And can you just kind of walk us through how you're able to accomplish such an amazing performance with just yourself?
Well, I mean, that's an excellent question. And one of the things that I used, I mean, for the first time in my life and career, I think I went totally method as an actor. And those who understand what that means, they understand. I just really just threw myself into this man's head, his thoughts, his movement, everything about him. And I stayed there. I could not come out of it. Luckily, it was a short shoot. Otherwise, I may have been, I don't know where I may have ended up, but I knew I had to stay there because of our situation, you know, because of the shortness of the shoot, the financial situations and everything else. And I knew that I had to stay connected and remain connected. And it wasn't that difficult to do for me, because once I got Kenneth Chamberlain in my heart, in my mind, in my soul, he stayed there. He stayed there. And everything about the shoot, the location, the warehouse we shot in, you know, the professionalism of everybody around me, the dance, the duet, the dance that I was doing with the camera operators. There were two camera operators who were moving with me. We didn't have time to set up, you know, like elaborate settings. It was a lot of it was probably improvisational. I mean, we just kind of came through it, and we learned to move around each other and dance with each other. And I just knew that because of the seriousness of this piece, that I had to take my acting to another level. Not that I've ever, you know, taken the short route to anything that I've ever done, but this grabbed hold of me. And it said, Franky, you are here. Stay here with this. This man, he will tell you what to do. And in response to an earlier question you gave about portraying someone real life, I always say this: there are certain things in life, certain sounds that we hear that are universal. And I did not want to see Kenneth Chamberlain. I didn't want to see his face. I didn't want to see him. I only wanted to rely on the script and the information and the direction that I was getting from David. And I felt that this script was so wonderfully and amazingly written that those sounds, the sounds of desperation, the sounds of fear, the sounds of joy, the sounds of protection, they're all one sound. And if you're making that sound, no matter who's making it, it's going to sound similar. So I trusted that in doing this performance, because I didn't want to try to imitate who I thought Kenneth Chamberlain was. I wanted to tell this story that David had written, and he had written it, you know, based upon the life of this man. And I felt that if I could do that, then I would get to where I needed to get to. And when the family saw it and they came up and they embraced me and they say they felt they saw their father, their friend, their uncle, their cousin there, it just tore my heart open, because I really wanted to do a credible job in this piece. And let's not forget, there's a tremendous acting challenge here. And as an actor, I always gravitate towards challenging roles. I mean, give me the King Lears, give me the Willie Lomans, give me the Troy Maxons, give me those epic characters who are, you know, faced with situations that they have to overcome. And along with being there with Kenneth Chamberlain, having him in my head and in my heart, I was able to push through this thing. And I have no recollection of a lot of stuff that happened during this shooting period. It's the goodness, I mean, it's the truth. And as far as acting with the sounds on the other side of the door, well, I just went through a moment like that just now with you guys. I lost communication with you. And I'm panicking, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so important that we want to have this story told, and I'm desperately searching and calling my wife, Samantha, asking her, please help me. I got to get back on. I don't know what to do. So that's the same approach that I use in hearing those sounds. Now, when I didn't have the actors there, it was read by, maybe Enrico would read some, maybe some of the script supervisor would read some, whatever. That was good. But when we actually got the real people there, when I was able to, it took it to another level.
Yeah.
But I could use that because Kenneth Chamberlain, he may have had an idea of what those people looked like on the other side of the door, but he didn't know. He had the voices, the commands. And so to me, that's the tool that I use in doing that. That was the acting exercise, and that was everything that I had, and I gave everything that I had.
Well, I mean, and it shows. Again, you mentioned some amazing roles. I think this performance is up there with any of those characters. I guess now what we can do is turn it over to some questions that I see in the comments over here. One that I'm seeing asked by a few people is, did you guys ever consider changing the title of the film to something that didn't quite give away the ending? Was that ever on the table?
That's a good question. Yeah. We actually went through very long discussions about the title. We talked about that very issue, the fact that it gives away the ending. And is it, we were very, very conscious the entire time. The last thing in the world we wanted to do was sensationalize this story or make it appear gratuitous or anything like that. And I think that was our top priority, was to honor this story without sensationalizing it. And we had long discussions about, is this the right title to use? Does it sensationalize the story? Does it give away the ending? And is that a bad thing that it gives away the ending? And we went through really, really long discussions. And ultimately, one of the recurring comments that we've gotten is that the title actually, and it hits everybody differently. Of course, obviously it's going to hit everybody differently. But one of the recurring comments that we've gotten is that the title actually makes the film even more suspenseful for many people, because they are sitting watching the film knowing what is going to happen. But the whole time, it's almost like they can't believe that a situation that starts out as a welfare check is going to end that way. So it almost makes it more suspenseful for them, because they want to see, how could this possibly happen? That being said, I completely understand, some people will have the reaction of it giving away the title, and it's a very subjective thing.
Yeah, we definitely there was lots of debate within in the background going on with that, but in the end, we had a lot of different other titles, and nothing felt right, because this is what happened, and this is a true story, and it wasn't like we were trying to sugarcoat anything. This is what happened, and when you hear that he accidentally triggered his medical alert, and the police were called there for a wellness check, and that's the title of the movie. You ask so many questions. There's just so many questions. And one quick Google search for Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., you know what happened. So it wasn't like we were trying to hide the ending. We wanted to show how this escalated, and how, the tactics used, there was no de-escalation tactic used here. They treated him like a criminal. They treated him like he thought that he had something to hide, and he was there. And when you look at it, they were just there for a wellness check. They were there to check on the man's wellness, and he ended up dead. So we didn't want to sugarcoat that with the title. We wanted a title that grabbed you. We wanted the title that made you understand this is a true story, and this is what happened.
I'd also like to interject the fact that it's when I tell people about the film who haven't seen it, to watch it, to take it, you say, it's called The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, so it's not going to be a happy ending. But I want people to understand and to see, moment by moment throughout this entire film and process, where does the killing take place? Why would the killing have to happen? And I think that was our chore, our task as filmmakers, as actors, directors, producers, etc., to keep them held suspensefully and say, no, killing No. I mean, of course, we see so many other aspects. I mean, we see them trying to get in. They're going to get in. They get in, and then everything is okay. They got in, they're fine. But then it just kept going and going. And I think that's the suspense is amazing. And I think that it's a proper title, The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, because no one actually believes that this is going to happen and that it's happening before their very eyes. And this is the first piece that's ever been done that I know of, where you actually get to see the victim an hour and a half before he's killed by the police. And you see, I wanted people to see a vital human being, a father, a grandfather, a friend, a neighbor, a man who has some mental issues, a man who's been in war, a man he could be anybody. I wanted the audiences out there to know that could be their father, their grandfather, and this thing could happen to them. So that's why I think that I think the title is I'm glad that you guys stuck to your guns and stayed with it, and it's a very appropriate title.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a question here about, did everybody kind of stick to the script, or was there room for improv? How did things go down on set?
Yeah, it was, there didn't end up being a whole lot of improvisation. There was, I think that I wanted to leave that option available and open. And there were a couple sections where there was, and for example, like, I'm not a writer who, if an actor says a line slightly differently or something like that, like changes the order, something like, I don't look at a script of mine as a Bible. It's more of just a general roadmap. And there were moments where a lot of the actors came up with even better lines, even better ideas than I had written in the script. So we certainly did a lot of those kinds of adjustments. There were a couple moments where little things were improvised, but I would say it was more, and this has happened with all the films that I've made. I always find myself surprised in incredible ways by what actors bring to a script. Like a moment that I may have written as just like a quick transitional moment, or a moment that I was thinking, okay, this is just going to be to get him from here to here, or just a quick line, kind of like a throwaway line. And an actor will see that line and create a beautiful, beautiful moment out of it that is essential to that character's arc. And so that happened many times where actors, Franky, Enrico, the other officers, the residents, created these moments that maybe were written in the script in a very perfunctory way, but they were able to create a much more meaningful moment out of them than I was even expecting.
And you have to, I mean, David, I cannot express enough, and I've answered this question many times. I am an actor who truly believes in writers. The writers are so important, and there's the way, the energy, the thought that they put into telling the story. And this story was so completely succinct from beginning to end for me. The things were there. There was, I mean, we may have improvised a word or two here, or, paraphrase, but everything was there. Mm-hmm. Everything that I needed as an actor was there. And it was my job to not get in the way of what you had done so beautifully, what you had so beautifully written and given to me to do. And it's it was an easy challenge, that part, because everything made sense. There was nothing that I had to go back and say, well, doesn't make sense for him to do this or do that, and he could have done this or that. Everything was beautifully done, and I applaud you and applaud you and applaud you and thank you, because it was a great gift to me as an artist to be able to work on the film the way in which you had written it.
Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, it was just a great synergy, I think, between everybody.
Yeah,
the trust on both sides, I think, was there.
I've known David for a long time, and just reading the script from the very beginning, I like the first time I read it, I think I called you right away. It was like, we met the next day and we put things in the motion to make this happen right away, because I was so blown away by the script and what had been written. And then, yeah, just to put the words out there and to say them out loud. I think everyone understood the gravity of those words too. So it wasn't a matter of like, you know, comedies, you can like have fun and there's like a, you know, half-page scene and you can make that into a 4-minute scene if you wanted to. This is like, you understood the gravity of the words that you were speaking out into existence. And I think all the actors took that very seriously.
And this was a situation also kind of on this note where you did have an unusual, you know, tool of the transcripts, because a lot of this was recorded through that Life Alert company, correct?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
It was a lot. You know, the dialogue, as with any film that's based on a true story, there were certain elements that were fictionalized, including the police officers. We decided to go ahead and fictionalize and composite the police officers. No real likenesses are used. No real names are used from the police officers. But the dialogue and action of the film and of the script is virtually all either lifted directly from the transcripts and the documentation that exists, or inspired from the documentation and the evidence that exists.
No, it's amazing. We have a question here about what the kind of target demographic the audience is for the film. And if you could talk also a little bit about kind of where the case is right now, and a little bit about what you were hoping to achieve, all of you guys, in bringing this whole case to life.
Sure. Enrico?
Well, what we were hoping to achieve, I mean, you know, look, the reality is Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. is still fighting for some sort of accountability for what happened to his father. That's his reality. Every day that he wakes up, he has to live with that. And that's something, as filmmakers, we carry that burden. We carry that with us. One of the major things that we want out of this is for people to know what happened, because this is 2011 when this happened. Right now, I think there's a little bit more of a people are a little bit more, you know, with cell phones and the ability to record a lot of things. You know, a lot of things are being recorded, a lot of things are being shouted out, but back then that wasn't really the case. And this kind of went under, you know, like a couple news journalists and things covered this, but it didn't get the attention it should have. And this is a veteran. This is someone who served our country. This is someone who, a man of faith. This is someone who was just sleeping and accidentally triggered his medical alert pendant and died. And I think that for us, we wanted desperately to make this story and do it in a way that was so impactful that the audience was forced to talk about it. They were forced to feel for an hour and a half what it might be like to be Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. in this situation. Because, you know, that this is 2011 and this is still happening. This is still happening in our country. This is continually happening in our country. And like we wanted to try to make something that could really hit someone pretty hard and make them want to stand up and shout his name and do something about it. Because as filmmakers, you know, that was our goal. Our goal was to make the audience really feel this. Carl, I don't know if I answered your question at all, but I felt a very deep desire to say that, because, you know, that is one of the reasons we wanted to do this project and make this, is that I think it's so important for America to understand, for our country to understand that this was going on in 2011 and this is still going on today. And we shot this before George Floyd. We shot this before what happened to George Floyd. And like, we just feel so strongly that if our nation, which has done so many times for so many different people, stood up and shouted Kenneth Chamberlain Sr.'s name, that the White Plains would have they'd be forced to deal with this instead of sweeping it on the rug like they've done for 10 years.
No,
And
absolutely.
also, when you speak of targeted audience, my take on that is this. I mean, anything that I do, I always try to bring some sort of universality to it. I want it to be universally accepted I don't want it to be pigeonholed to this or that or that. I want everyone to be able to get something from it. Otherwise, I feel like I'm not doing my job. I feel that I've spoken to people who are senior citizens, black, white, brown, yellow. I've spoken to kids, in their teens, teenagers. I've spoken to young adults, 20s and 30s, and they all bring the passion and understanding of the injustice that was done to this person. Now, I think that this film would be a great training tool for law enforcement people, but I think it also is a great training tool for people on the other side of the law, because no matter who you are, especially if you're black or brown, you're probably going to get a lot more, but even it doesn't matter. No matter who you are, when you have that conflict, when you come into conflict with those people with the badges and the guns on, you're at their disposal pretty much, at least during that moment. So I want people to realize that when they watch this film, that even though this happened to Kenneth Chamberlain, it could possibly happen to them. And it could, because some smart ass guy, youngster, be he white or blue, he gives the wrong answer. The police, they feel like, no, you don't talk to me. I represent power. And that's what we have to train the police to understand, that people have a chance to express their disappointment in a situation or an encounter. And it doesn't have to end up with someone banging someone over the head or putting a bullet through their heart. So that's why I think that the audience is broad, that should be attracted to this film, because it affects us all.
Absolutely. And I guess one final question here. There's a question about what have the people in White Plains said about the film? Are they making any changes? What's a kind of bit of an update on how things are going right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Generally, the public opinion in White Plains and Westchester County is very much on the side of the Chamberlain family. This is sort of, at least as far as I understand, this incident is sort of viewed with a lot of shame by the White Plains Police Department. Like you said, they've tried to sort of sweep it under the rug and those kinds of things. I think that there have been some recent developments in the case, and there also have been some recent developments in Westchester County that are very positive steps, as there have been in many areas of the country. More and more municipalities have been instituting what they're calling mental health units, which are if there's a call to somebody who's known to have mental health challenges, they will send a team of social workers or a team of people who are trained in de-escalation strategies and who are aware of the person's history, rather than sending police officers. So that's a positive step that is beginning to happen in Westchester County. That's happened in many different areas of the country, but not quickly enough. It has to happen quicker. And there have been some positive developments in the case. In June of 2020, a judges panel threw out part of the original decision that allowed the officers to walk away without any consequences. So there is possibility on the civil side. And there is currently an independent review of the case going on that was just signed onto by the new district attorney in Westchester County. And depending on what the results of that review yield, I as far as I understand, that there is a possibility that the criminal side may be reopened, but it's just sort of a wait and see thing right now.
Okay. And well, with any luck, hopefully the film will continue to put some pressure and get people talking about this story that, it's 10 years. It's more than time. So any closing remarks from you gentlemen? Thank you again for joining us this evening. Would love to hear any final words you have about the film, and thank you again.
Yeah. Franky, you want to start?
Sure. I'm just piggybacking on that last comment about the White Plains situation. I think that everyone should ask themselves what they think should happen to those police officers. What kind of justice should be given to this family? I find myself being employed as a sort of a spokesperson for the rights of those whose rights have been violated. And I never thought of that coming into this film, but it has erupted into that sort of thing. And I'm happy to accept that challenge as well, because I just believe that what was done in this situation was wrong, and there should be some accountability. You can't bring Kenneth Chamberlain back, but you can hopefully think that this film can help people to understand that this thing should not happen again. And by bringing these people to justice, that people have second thoughts before they go off and do something like that again. So I am grateful to be able to be an ambassador for the cause of those who have had injustices perpetrated upon them.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who has attended this Q&A. Our goal all along has been to lift up Kenneth Chamberlain Sr.'s story. Again, as I mentioned before, I know that the focus of this Q&A has been performance, but we always try to remember that the Chamberlain family are really the most important voices behind this film, particularly Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., who, if you haven't heard Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. speak, I encourage everybody to go onto YouTube and look up one of his speeches. He's the most powerful public speaker any of us have ever heard. His words carry so much weight, and he speaks from such a place of personal experience, obviously, but at the same time, he speaks about these issues from a broader societal perspective as well. And he's the most powerful speaker any of us have ever heard. So we are, all of what we've done is really, has been led by their voice.
Absolutely. And I'm going to have I have a few things to say to everyone. First and foremost, we have done everything in our power. We've become incredibly close with Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. and his struggle and what has happened. We care for him deeply. We love him. He calls Franky his film dad. Like we have become very close, and we're here for the SAG Awards, and I want to say, for me, Franky, this is one of the best performances I've ever seen in any film, and I just want to say that to you and to everyone here. But one of the most important things that can happen, and this is just how our industry works, is that if we can get some attention for his performance, which he absolutely deserves, that will undoubtedly cause more people to see this film and more people to have a strong reaction, and hopefully be able to stand up and force White Plains to actually do something about this. And that has been our goal this entire time. And so we are a small film. We don't have a huge backing, and we have been, we won, Franky won the Gotham Award for Outstanding Lead Performance. And we did that with nothing. We don't have the support of a major studio or all these people to kind of dump all this stuff into a promotion. It has all been word of mouth. And I'm begging all of the actors, if you know other actors, if you know other people, tell them to see this performance and look at Franky Faison's performance, because it is undeniable. If you are an actor, you know how powerful this is. You know the work, and I know firsthand, I can tell you firsthand, the amount of energy and passion that he put into this role blew me away. It absolutely blew me away. And I know it blows everyone away when they watch this movie. It does to me still to this day. And so I beg of you, if you haven't already, tell your friends, tell other people, watch this movie, consider us, please. And also, if you're not already, Killing of KC Film, at Killing of KC Film on Instagram, follow us, be a part of this story, help us spread this word, because again, this is not just a movie. This is a real life story. This actually happened. This is still happening. And the person, Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., his son, is still fighting for accountability for what happened here. So any voice that we can have to help amplify that is just so helpful. So that is my plea to everyone here to watching. Please share this. Please talk about the film. It's on HBO Max. It's available to rent at pretty much everywhere else as well if you don't have HBO Max. And if you want, send us. If you're here, you've RSVP'd, send us and we'll send you another screener. Please feel free. We just want people to watch this movie and know what happened. So thank you all so much for coming. We really do appreciate everyone here. And Franky, again, we love you, man. And I, you transformed me in my career. I will always want my bar to be set to Franky FAISON level. So, I appreciate you and everything you've done for this project.
And I'd also just like to give a quick shout out thanking Morgan Freeman and Laurie McQuarrie and the Gravitas Company for giving us some momentum that we desperately needed to get this film out. So, and thank you all for watching the film and spreading the word. Much appreciated.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. And thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure as always. Look forward to seeing what happens with the film. And please do go out, vote, share, let everybody know if you love this movie, that it needs to be seen. All right. Have a great night.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.